Good evening. Today is Thursday, September 22nd, 2011. And I wanted to discuss, I don't have time to write, so I figured I'll just tape it. I'd like to talk about an Esrog. A question was asked about an Esrog. Somebody took an Esrog and took out the seeds, moved to Florida, and planted a tree. Now there are 7 Esrogim there. So there's a couple of things to remember. We have to remember that a tree, let's start with the basics. A tree, first 3 years of a fruit tree, it says in Pasuk, in Gedashim, that the first 3 years is called Orloh, and you're not allowed to eat from the fruits. 4th year, you have to bring it to Esrog, it's called Netar. You take the fruits, it's Kodesh, the pears that grow the 4th year, as Kodesh, and it's Netar, and you have to take it at Esrog, you have to be paid it for money, and with the money you buy things. It's a whole pasha by itself. The halacha of Orloh is Midoraisa in Esrog. Orloh is Midoraisa, and in Chutz La'aretz is Orloh.wmv Sinai that is also. The same Orloh.wmv Sinai tells us that if it's a Safek Orloh, it's mutter. So it's an interesting case that normally there's an Isser, and if you don't know, it's mutter because we don't know. In this case, the Orloh.wmv Sinai was formulated that if it's a Safek, then there is no Orloh, then it's mutter. That's the way it was formulated. Okay. The next question. Is an Esrog considered a fruit tree considered Gabi Orloh? And that too is Sabishnet, Esrog Shavali, let me give him Dragon. An Esrog is compared to a tree in 3 ways, one of which is Orloh. Next, we have to ask, is an Esrog Shel Orloh is a puzzle? It's a separate question. And the answer is yes. There's a Mishnah Lulav Agazel that says an Esrog Shel Orloh is puzzle. So we know that an Esrog is puzzle. If it's Orloh, the first 3 years is puzzle. The interesting thing is that in Shulchan Aruch, Chaim, Tov Reish Mem Tes, Sivkot and Gimel, but it talks about Orloh. It talks about, not about Orloh, it talks about Asherah, that Esrog Shel Asherah is puzzle, but Orloh is omitted. The Mechaber, the Beis Kara, does not mention Orloh. The Agoyle, on the spot, says, V'yadeh lo mehishvin ha-Mechaber. I do not know why the Mechaber left it out. Okay. It's one thing, one interesting thing. The next interesting thing is, in the back of the Gemara, by the Rifter, Shulti Gebarim, says that what it says that Orloh, that is Esrog Shel Orloh is puzzle, is talking about an Orloh from in Esrog. But the Orloh in Chutz La'aretz, like in America, is you can use it. And he says why? Because the one that has the tree, for him it's Orloh, he's not allowed to eat it. But he can give it to his friend who does not know that it's Orloh. So his friend, since he can give it to his friend, so the Mele, it's okay. The Minchas Chinuch asks a question. Minchas Chinuch says, how can he give it to his friend if Orloh, one of the things that Orloh is Asr is not only B'achila, but it's also Asr B'hanoah. So giving it to a friend is a Hanoah. We consider Hanoah, be able to give it to a friend is considered Hanoah. Like by Kedushin, we say that giving it to another Mechoshev is considered Hanoah. Anyhow, and Chef Shmait says that question. But what's important to note is, so that's one thing. The next thing is to note that the 4th year is Netar. In Chutz La'aretz, you have to be paid it. It's a whole procedure by itself. The next thing to note, 3 years of Orloh. What do you mean 3 years? 3 calendar years? You have to look it up. It has to do, if it's planted 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, comes Rosh Hashanah is already considered a year. If 30 days, you have to look up the halachas in detail when the 3 year starts and when the 3 year ends. Now, there's another issue that have to be considered. What needs to be considered is the question could be that this Esrog was an Esrog Shel Shvius. Could be a couple of years ago, it was Shemitah. The Mela, the kernels were from Shemitah. So now this Garine Shvius That's a separate shmuz by itself. So on the very basic level, these are the items that need to be considered, what I just said. Good night.